Good morning and welcome to the Board of County Commissioners Board Work Session for October 28th, 2020. This 30-minute gig is on transfer of development rights and it's informational only. We won't make any decisions today. If you'd like to join us via conference call, the phone number is 360-252-9020 and the extension is 1234. And we have today joining us, I'm Commissioner John Hutchings, the chair of the board. We have Vice Commissioner, co-chair rather, Vice Chair Ty Menser, Commissioner Gary Edwards, County Manager Romero Chavez, and we have Amy Davis, Clerk of the Board. We have CPED, Community Development and Community Planning and Economic Development Director Josh Cummings. I'm just messing up all over the board. We have Jennifer Davis, Chris Chapeau, and Andy DeFlobis. And so, Romero, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, as you just got out of an interesting process with Public Works, this is yet another interesting process that you will hear today as to how development rights can be transferred within the county. So who's going to take the lead? I believe with Andy or Josh?
Start with Josh. Okay.
So, yeah, Steph has the lead, but I wanted to jump in real quick and just say a couple of quick words. I am Joshua Cummings, the Director of Community Planning and Economic Development. And I got to say, I'm joining here because I'm excited about this tool. Since I became director, this is one of those tools that's been sitting in there waiting to be used. And I've been interested to see how this might be used and to see an application come through and to kind of work through the process in real time. CPED's main targets in the strategic initiative are honoring strategic initiative number 6 and number 7. And those are balancing economic development, development of building, as well as protection of the natural environment and agriculture. And we also have WSU extension within our group. And so that we've got this tool, this TDR, that potentially honors economic development, natural environment, and farm families to do with their land what they want. That really is exciting to me. It's kind of the nexus of how we serve the community. So that being said, I'm excited to hear what Andy presents, and I'll probably go after.
Okay, great. Thanks, Josh. Good morning, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and attempt to deliver a PowerPoint. Okay. Let's try this. Can everyone see the PowerPoint, the main screen? Great. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to give you a brief overview, today I will give you some background information on the county's Transfer of Development Rights program, and then talk a little bit about the application that we have received this year. So first of all, Thurston County has a Transfer of Development Rights program. It's not something that we've talked about a lot. I know it's probably not something the board has heard a lot about because it does not really see a whole lot of activity. So the rules for this program are found in Chapter 2062 of the Thurston County Code. But since the time that it has been going, since is about the mid-90s, the records that I have show that we have 35 development rights that have been certified in all that time, and 4 of which have been actually applied to development projects. The rest are held and can potentially be used in the future. So why do we have a TDR program, or Transfer Development Rights? The goals of that program are to preserve farmland and to allow landowners to realize the economic potential of their property. And the folks who can participate in this program are those within the long-term agriculture zoning district. These are known as the sending areas. And so what happens is a landowner is able to separate the development rights from their property within that zone, and those development rights can then be transferred and applied to achieve a greater density in the urban areas. And those urban areas are known as receiving areas. So how that is done is that an easement is placed on the property, which removes those development rights, and then it lays out how those properties can be used going forward. And essentially, the goal that is to retain them for agricultural use. And then if there are existing residences on site, those can be maintained and replaced, et cetera. The county does not get involved in the sale of those development rights. So a landowner certifies them and has them. They're able to sell them on the private market to an entity that wishes to apply them in the urban area. We don't get involved in the sale, but we do record the deeds of transfer and any easements and those sorts of things, and also keep a ledger of these rights and who holds them and what their fate ultimately is. So this is a map of the county, and it lays out the TDR universe. I don't know if you can, there you go, that might be better. Okay, so the areas shown in the bright green, those are the long-term agriculture zoning district for the county. So all of those areas are the sending areas. Landowners within that sending area are able to certify their development rights for transfer. And then those rights may be applied within the receiving areas, within the more urban areas of the county. So Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater, urban growth areas, and then also the Grand Mound urban growth area. So the areas shown, zoning districts shown in color within those boundaries are the areas where these rights can ultimately be applied. And so if you go and look at the zoning code, you'll see information in each of those zoning codes for how that works within each one. So one more thing, just to pause on that. So Josh, he mentioned that he's excited about this program and wants to see how it works and how it can work. I did want to mention that this program is going to be examined coming up within that whole bucket of agriculture programs that we're doing as part of our docket review, the community-driven review of agricultural programs. So you will be seeing more of this as we move into the future. So that's the background on the program. And today the reason we're here is to talk about the application that we have received. So we have received an application to certify development rights. The applicant's name is Susan Yackley, and her property is down on James Road, south of Rochester. It's about a 50-acre property that currently contains her residence, agricultural structures, and then has a large amount of pasture and forested land. So the property contains 9 available development rights when you look at the metrics within Chapter 2062. And so the applicant wishes to retain one of those rights for future use on the property, and then remove 8 rights from the property, which would then enable her to apply them in the urban area or sell them to someone who wishes to do so. And this is an aerial photograph of the property. You can see it's right there off James Road, and Rochester is to the north. The Chehalis River is to the south. So in order for the rights to be certified, the landowner must sign an easement with the county. The Board of County Commissioners are the ones who approve and sign those easements. And the goal of that is to preserve the land for agricultural use. That is the purpose that is set out within that easement. And then it also specifies which activities are going to be allowed on the site going forward. And essentially, it's agricultural use, and then it's maintaining, repairing, replacing that residence that's already there. And as I mentioned, this applicant wishes to retain one right on the property for some future development purpose, and that will be done through a document of attachment that legally binds that development right to that parcel, and that will all get recorded with the easement. And so where are we at right now? As I mentioned, we've received this application. Staff has reviewed and processed this application, and we have drafted the easement. Travis has been involved. Travis Burns, our legal counsel, has been involved in that, and he's taking one more look at that. But essentially, the next steps are to see what information the board might need, additional information, questions, before we bring this forward formally through the AIS process for review and approval. And once the easement is approved, then it will be recorded on the property, and the rights will be certified, and we will be all set. So that's the gist of the presentation I have. It's just some information for you up front. So I'd be happy to take any questions you might have.
Wow, 8.5 minutes, Andy. Wow. Gary, got any questions of Andy?
Yes. So a development right, so there's like 35 or something. Are they of all different sizes?
So it's done based on 5 acres. So this property is 50 acres. And so to use it as an example, it's 50 acres, and it would have 10 development rights associated with it. It has 1 residential structure already built on it. So 10 minus 1 is 9. It has 9 available rights at that 5 acre density. And she's wishing to remove 8 rights and retain 1 on the property. So there's 9 available in play for this specific application. The code does stipulate that if there is, an odd amount of acreage on the property, we can round up from 2.5 acres. So let's say this property was 53 acres, then there would be an additional development right in play. But the base zoning and density that we use to calculate development rights is 5 acres.
Is this our code 2062 is kind of the driver here, or is it the GMA and an RCW that's gives the authority to do this?
So it's our code that outlines how the program works. 2062 is what sets all the rules, and then there are accompanying provisions within the different zoning codes. So Title 20 in other places, and then the zoning districts for the individual urban growth areas all have rules that outline that. I'd have to go back and look at the original ordinance to see the other authority from the state, but in looking at it, I did review it briefly. It mentions, the Growth Management Act and being consistent with that and the goals of preserving farmland. And
the value of it, there's something about we don't set the value, but how is the person compensated in a fair way? How's that set?
So that is done between the buyer and the seller, and so the buyer is able to set the price and the seller is able to purchase or negotiate that price as they see fit. So we don't get involved. It's a private market, free market system.
Well, do we find out at some point down the road what the transaction was?
Yes. So the documents, when a development right is transferred, a deed needs to be recorded with the county, and that deed will say how much was paid. I did find, anecdotally, looking back through the program materials, I found a fact sheet that's very dated at this point, but at the time had information that stated $14,000 was the average amount of the sale. But, we'd have to look and see. We don't have a lot of data on this, unfortunately, because, there are only 35 rights that have been certified, and they have changed hands over time, but there's not a whole lot of data and not a lot of recent data to say what the price would be. But it's all market driven.
Do we have an example that we can look at as a past example that might clarify some of these questions?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a ledger sheet that talks about each right gets a serial number. So when these rights get created, there's an actual piece of paper with a serial number on it, and then that can be tracked through time. And so we have a ledger with all of those serial numbers and the accompanying recording documents that kind of show us how they've moved about. So I could go back and take a look at that. I can absolutely do that.
And the 14,000 that you mentioned as a figure, is that per acre or per development right?
That would be per development right.
So obviously that was some time back before property values maybe have went up considerably since then.
Sure. And I mean, it's all going to depend on demand as well, and how there isn't a whole lot of demand for this program. And I think that's why we don't see a whole lot of people clamoring to get these rights. So, I've been the project lead on this program for over a year now, and this is the first application we've had. I might get a phone call every couple of months of people inquiring about the program, but there aren't a whole lot of folks that are trying to apply rights within the urban areas right now. And, that may be affecting the price because it affects the demand.
Is there a possibility that there can be some type of a partnership developed with the U.S. Department of Agriculture on some of their programs on purchasing easements and development rights? Is the party allowed to, double dip, I guess is what I'm saying, and get a benefit from both the federal program and the state program? I'd
have to explore that more because, if this if a property goes through this process, a certain number of rights are already removed from the property, and there are restrictions on the property for how it would be used. So if the property were to enter into some other program, it would be a question of, are there any remaining, bundle of rights that would be could be held in a different easement? But it's certainly something we could conceptually explore.
Yeah, and I think that the questions that I'm hearing from Commissioner Edwards are great questions, and probably similar questions will be asked of our Agriculture Advisory Committee as they start to dig into this incentive program, because they're starting to look at all of our agriculture incentive programs and see if there are dials that can be turned differently to make them work better. For example, the county has, a purchase of development rights program. We invest through conservation futures, and we have this transfer of development rights program. We're going to be looking at all of those and seeing if there are other opportunities or gaps or things that we may do a little differently with those programs to make them more useful to farmers and landowners, and also on the other side, more useful in our urban areas where we want to apply that density transfer. So great questions, writing them down. Something that we'll be looking at in the coming year through that work.
Are we under a time frame here to complete this? I've never been involved in one of these myself, so I don't know if others have, but I'm kind of curious. I hate to rush into something if there's a lot of answers that, well, I'm not sure of this, or I will have to look into that. Are we up against a time frame for the party that's requesting this?
I believe the review timelines that are specified in county code for processing applications. But yeah, it's kind of two different questions. We have an application that has come in and meets the criteria of that program. And then the step that remains is to certify the easement. But then there's potentially other things that we can do looking into the program going forward and seeing if, there are tweaks that can happen to it or how it could benefit or benefited by the other suite of agricultural programs that we have. So I kind of see it as two prongs there.
What are the dates we're looking at here to complete this activity for this party? Say it's the right thing to do. What kind of a time frame are we looking for here?
And when you answer his question, would you add this to it? I just want to know when Susan Yackley, when did she apply, and how long has it been to get to this point? And how much did she or an applicant have to pay? The county.
Right. I would have to go back and look at what the fee was, but I can certainly get that information in short order. And in terms of where we're at in the clock, I'd have to look at that as well. But she did apply some time ago. This application has been in front of us for a while, and it came in it was back in February, I think it was, and there were some delays that happened because of COVID and transferring to the virtual world. And then, a lot of back and forth that's happened. This is the first application that I have done in this program. And so there's been quite a learning curve that, I've had to climb as I've been trying to work on it. So it has been in front of us for a while. And I'm trying to, move it through as quickly as I can, but making sure that we're doing everything correctly.
Okay, and if there was no COVID in the what would that typically take? How long would it typically take? 6 months, a year, 3 months?
I'm hoping that, the next one that I get, it can certainly be a lot quicker and could be within a few months, because essentially, we need to look at the property against the code and see how many rights may be available, and then, go out and just put eyes on the site. And then it's just drafting the easement, which will go a lot faster next time, because this template has been sort of blessed by the prosecuting attorney's office, and we know that we can apply it to more properties going forward. And then it's just a matter of bringing it forward to the board and saying, this is the standard easement, this is the details of this property, what is the pleasure of the board.
Thank you. Ty, any questions or comments?
Yes, so I've always kind of understood the sending side of the equation. I'm more curious about the receiving side. If I'm a developer and I purchase this, what can I do with it? I don't understand how it works with the city's zoning. I mean, how can you override the city's zoning? And are the city's partners in this, or how does that piece work?
Yes, the cities are partners in this, and there are specific zoning districts within those cities and urban growth areas where these rights can be applied. And so one way that it works is that when you look at the zoning, it might be medium. I'm going to create a generic zone here, but medium density residential, 4 to 8 units per acre. That might be something that you see in an urban area, but the fine print in the code says if you want to achieve that 8 units per acre, that 8th unit must come from a transfer of development rights. So if you don't have any of those rights, or you're not wishing to apply those, you as a developer may only be able to achieve a maximum density of 7 dwelling units per acre, but that 8th comes from getting a TDR.
And so all 3 of our big cities have created these types of zones.
Correct. And Grand Mound, yes, we have it in Grand Mound as well.
And without that, this program couldn't fly, right? I mean, there'd be nothing to do with this thing that you're buying from the agricultural property owner.
Correct.
So whenever this program was set up in the 90s, I think you said everybody was working together to come up with it. But you're saying there just hasn't been much activity for folks and that might change. Did your map that you showed show the receiving zones, like the particular zoning areas that they would be allowed to?
Yeah, I can share again real quick.
I'm just curious because, that missing middle policy in Olympia was so politically controversial. I'm just wondering how this fits into that.
Sure. Yeah. Okay, let's see. Can I go back? So there you have it. So you can see the dashed lines are the the outer extent of the urban growth areas of Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater, and Grand Mound, and any of the zoning districts shown in color within those boundaries are where these can be applied.
Can you zoom in on the Tri-City area?
I'm not sure if I can zoom in a PowerPoint. Oh, yeah, well, yeah, you can. Learn something every day.
Oh.
Yeah.
Good job.
So you're saying that, okay, so say that again. So there's different shades of, let's take Tumwater. There's different shades of purple there. There's dark purple, medium purple, and light purple. What does that mean? What does that mean to me in this context?
I think those are the specific zoning districts. So if I come over to the key, that's showing you the color code we've used for Tumwater is shades of purple, and each different shade is going to be a different zoning district within which you could essentially apply one of these development rights. So there are 4 zoning districts within Tumwater that allow TDR, and there should be 4 shades of purple.
Okay. And so going back, can you move it over again to that list of zoning districts?
Yep, sure. And
I'm just trying to take a hypothetical. So let's take the first one, single family low 4 to 7. What does that mean exactly? It means I can have 4 to 7 per acre, or per
4 to 7 dwelling units per acre. But so each of these zoning districts, the rules could potentially be a little bit different. So we'd have to go and look at the zoning district itself and see how the transfer development right fits in. I know, like, one example I mentioned is that you might only be able to get that 7 if you have a TDR. So whether there are and whether any of these allow for a number above what you see on the screen here, I wouldn't know without looking at each individual zoning district.
But in practice, it would be the buyer of the rights that would be doing that research.
That's correct. Yeah. So if I'm a developer and I know that my project is situated within let's use that single family low district in Tumwater, if I want to achieve a greater density and that's a good fit for my project, I could go out and purchase a development right and bring that to the city and apply that. And then there's rules about how that gets all recorded. And, if you're doing a plat, it goes on the face of the plat that it's noted that development rights were used, and the recording number, it ties back to the recording numbers of the easements, and just so that it can all be tracked.
It looks like from the map that there's, a pretty reasonable amount of area that the cities allow this application of it too. So that doesn't, I guess Lacey's less, it looks like, but it doesn't seem like that's the problem. It's just a more of, I guess, just overall volume of properties versus density limitation.
Yeah, and I am not. I haven't been steeped in this too long, but we know that development and growth is occurring in all of these urban areas right now. And just I'm the one that would be getting the questions of how can I find and purchase a right? And I haven't been getting those questions. Now, some of them, as I mentioned, there's about 35, I think, that have been certified. 4 have already been applied. So there's a handful of rights out there that people have purchased and they're holding. And so it's an investment for the future. And I know there's one, I have another project on my plate here of someone who wishes to simply sell that right to someone else. So that's another thing I'm working on is, how does one private party sell one of these rights to another private party who can then choose to apply it at some point? And then that's where we record the deed of transfer. So, but other than that, there's not a whole lot of activity that goes on in this program right now.
Andy, how about some of the South County cities? Do they have any of this?
So the Grand Mound urban growth area does. You can see down there, I think there are 2 zoning districts that allow this. The other South County jurisdictions do not appear to. I went back and looked through the easement that started this program and was trying to find some rhyme or reason for what was included, what was not, and it wasn't terribly illuminating on that subject. So while I can tell you that these other South County cities do not appear to have this program, I don't have a whole lot of information about why that might have been.
Are they eligible for the program if they wanted to?
Potentially.
It would take a code change, absolutely.
Right.
You're all speaking very wisely to those dials I talked about that can be turned in any kind of incentive program that we run. And a TDR program is a common model used throughout the United States. We are not uniquely applying this, but
right.
We do have discretion and ability to, if we invest the time, capacity, and resources toward it, to be able to address those incentives on the receiving side that really make the program work. Or is there enough demand going on? Do we need to create more receiving areas? Do we need to create fewer receiving areas? Do we need to tweak the circumstances under which these can be applied? And I've been in conversation with our city planning partners, early conversations about taking a look at all of that as we move through our agriculture review project. So all of that is sort of on the more to come. Especially if the board's interested in it, we'll be spending some time on that in the coming year.
That begs my question, and that is, if this has been going on since in the 90s and the cities have their own, are we in lockstep with the cities, or does this need to be updated? Are there revisions that need to be made to this code?
Well, that's the question we're going to examine. So we are coordinated with the cities around the program. Everybody knows about the program and how it works. But in terms of, do we have the right sideboards in the program to really energize it and help create this market for development rights? Those are the questions we need to examine as planners and with our agriculture community, because again, that's the main focus, is to try to support our long-term farmers being able to retain and hold on to their land as farmland permanently and get some economic benefit in addition to their products. So that's something we're going to look at. I mean, the application today is ripe and ready to go. As far as I understand, it meets all the criteria of the program. So that can be processed at board direction. We could bring you back the easement and have an action on that. These other questions about, is the program working the way we want it to work, are the things that we're examining in a longer term.
Okay. Go ahead, Josh. You have 90 seconds or a minute. You have a minute, Josh. Go ahead, Josh. Chime in.
Commissioner Edwards, I don't want to interrupt.
Okay, just how does this figure in with ADUs, for an example? Oh, okay, it looks like I got an answer coming. I'll just wait. Go ahead, Josh.
So, Commissioner Edwards, all of the questions you're asking are exactly why I started this off with saying I'm excited to go through this in a real world process, because the answers are going to start to play out as we move forward with this specific application. And then secondly, what the commissioners might want to do with the program on a larger level. And it's super timely because we're right in the beginning stages of that community agricultural review. So all of the questions you're asking, just like Jennifer said, are on point. We don't know because we haven't done it in a long time. The information isn't right, but this application is. And so when you talk about timing, The timing is on you, the Board of County Commissioners, how quickly you'd like to act on this citizen's application. And then secondly, how deeply you want to dive into the program. So again, this is so timely and so useful to serving our citizens. And I appreciate your questions because they're right in line with exactly what we should be talking about. Thank you.
Where does the Planning Commission fit in here, and the Ag Committee, I guess? I know you mentioned, Jennifer, that they're interested, but those are two pretty important pieces, it sounds like, that ought to play into this.
We have no time left, so wrap it up quickly, please, the answer, if you got one.
We're working with the Ag Committee right now on a review of this and other incentive programs. We just started that project, and once they come up with a series of recommendations, those will then go to the Planning Commission, who will have their chance to dig in and facilitate the public process. So,
go ahead, Chris.
I just wanted to answer your question from earlier. The application came in on February 3rd of this year, and the cost for that application was $1,194.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad I called on you. All right, thank you all very much. This is a great day of getting briefing on a bunch of kind of cool stuff. Go ahead, Romero.
Commissioners, I will bring this item for next Tuesday because I think the request is whether you would like to direct the staff to bring an AIS to continue with the process. So I will bring this back on Tuesday morning, and that will give me the opportunity to think about this and maybe additional questions the staff may answer at that time.
Great, thank you. This meeting is adjourned, and we'll be coming back for the Boston Harbor Utility Advisory Committee. Thank you. Bye-bye.